Welcome to the Talkin VAWLS Network. My name is Boogie Bentley. A lot of chaos over the last 3 to 4 days. If you're a Tennessee football fan, you know the buzz around Boo Carter, the talk of Nico Iamaleava being tampered with. Of course, now we all sit and wait on Mike Matthews. What is he going to do? Is he going to return to Rocky Top, or is he going to go test the waters in the transfer portal? I put out a video on that earlier today. If you missed that, go back and give it a watch. But that's not the only change. It's not just about the roster. And yeah, that's a big part of it right now. You look at the number of guys that have transferred out. And I'll ask you guys, man, how about an update? How are you feeling? Are you still in panic mode? Are you kind of okay with it? With the names that have entered, of course, Caleb Perry entered the transfer portal yesterday, but outside of the wide receiver room, is there any need to panic? Do you still feel that way? And I get some of the panic is about not adding anybody, but we know Austin Price has put it out. Tennessee is going to be big spenders in the portal in January. We've made the recent updates about Zachariah Branch and his brother Zion. Tennessee is pushing all in on the twins from USC. Talked about that a little bit this morning as well. So, but it's not just about players. It's not just about roster management. It's also about coaching changes, right? A lot of you guys are ready to see head roll. Somebody said, I don't care who it is. It can be anywhere. I just need to see a head roll. Somebody has to pay for where we're at. Well, we can debate and argue that all you want to, but one of the top names that's coming out is Joey Halsley. You look at this offense, and it hasn't looked the same the last couple of years. Why is that? Is that because Alex Golish is gone? Is that because we don't have Hendon Hooker and Cedric Tillman and Jalen Hyatt? There's a lot of questions about why this offense has changed. Who's to blame for that? Is it Josh Heupel? You look at scoring offense on the year, Tennessee put up 37.2 per game. That was good for 8th in the country in scoring offense. They were 8th in the country in total offense, but the passing game struggled, right? We can see what this offense has done the last 2 years. You've led the SEC in rushing back-to-back seasons. That's part of offense. Does that count for something? But the passing game has struggled. We all threw darts at Joe Milton last year. This year, it's the wide receivers were off. Nico was off. The pass protection was off. We could never put it all together, but we were also missing creativity. So I get the frustration. I understand the frustration with Joey Halsley. There's a lot of talk about Kelsey Pope, lack of development in that wide receiver room. And then you talk about the mass exodus of players. We wait. We wait to see what Mike Matthews done, but you've lost Squirrel White, Caleb Webb, Chaz Nimrod, Nathan Laycock, Nate Spillman. There's leaked DMs out there that some of these players weren't happy with Kelsey Pope. Well, when was the last time a 6th or a 7th string wide receiver loved their position coach? For Kelsey Pope and me, it's all with Mike Matthews. If Mike Matthews comes back to Tennessee, and I get it, some of this is out of Kelsey Pope's control. When we're talking about money deals, when we're talking about leverage and agents and finances, Kelsey Pope can't control that. That's not his decision to make. But I talked about in one of the earlier videos, I talked about the lack of development. It's not about the number of guys transferring. It's about how none of those guys really matter, right? The Caleb Webbs, the Chaz Nimrods, the Nathan Laycock. So is it an evaluation problem or is it a development problem? Which is it? So for me, if Mike Matthews isn't retained, I got no problem if you guys want to call for Kelsey Pope's head. Now, if he does retain him, then I want to see what he does with Braylon Staley, with Chris Brazzell, with those young freshman wide receivers. I want to see that development in 2025. Now, that's talking about moving on, making changes. There's also some contracts that expire coming up on January the 31st. Tim Banks, his contract will expire. Willie Martinez, and also Mike Eckler. What happens with these three guys? Well, Willie Martinez could possibly retire. He could be done with college football, and I'm sure that would satisfy and make a lot of you guys happy, and I get it. Although the corners did play better in 2024, but that corner play because of the athleticism, because of the talent of Jermod McCoy and Ricky Gibson. Mike Eckler, a lot of talk about him. Do you retain him? He's the outside linebackers coach, also special teams coordinator. Seen a lot of people say, hey, why not let Coach Chop take over those outside linebackers? Coach Chop is a guy that's very heavily involved in recruiting on the defensive line, but you also got to look at the NCAA has removed the limit on the number of on-field coaches. So it approved a rule change that permits any staff member to provide technical and tactical instruction to players. So do you need to let Mike Eckler go for Coach Chop to have a bigger role, or can you keep both of those guys? Tim Banks, the last one, contract expires on January the 31st, and also his name is now being rumored in a coaching search. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it As always, I need you guys to do me a favor. Smash the thumbs up just below the video. Quick, free, easy. It helps this channel, and I would greatly appreciate it. If you're new here, welcome. We're not experts. We're not insiders. We're not media. We're not reporters. What we are is what you guys are. This channel is for the fans, by the fans. If you like what we do, subscribe. Click that bell for notifications. You won't miss out when we go live or when we drop a video. Going to be live tonight. New Year's Eve extravaganza. Yeah, we're going to play EA Sports College Football 25. We're going to hang out. We're going to be crazy. We're going to have good times. We're going to try to make it all the way to midnight. But we're also going to talk all things Tennessee football. So come join us again live, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. Let's get into it. Let's talk about it. Pete Nakos put this out. Miami has fired their defensive coordinator, hitting the reset button on the defensive side of the ball. Where will the Hurricanes turn? Sources tell On3 Sports that Miami has already begun conversations with a candidate. So let's go over and let's take a look at they list the top candidates in this article, and one of those top candidates you can see on the screen, Tim Banks, Tennessee defensive coordinator. The article says one of the hottest DCs names in the nation, Tim Banks directed a Tennessee defense in 2024 that ranked in the top 10 nationally in total defense. Volunteers allowed just 293.2 yards and 16.1 points per game. Man, it's funny when you read that. When you read top 10 defense, Tennessee, we thought Josh Heupel was going to come in and going to play up-tempo, fast-paced, high-octane, electric, explosive offense. But, man, we lived on this defense in 2024, and I think a lot of us forgot that because of the way the season ended. The way the Ohio State game went left a sour taste in our mouth, and now we're turning on Tim Banks. We're talking about how he's not aggressive, and that's true. That's accurate. I think it's perfectly fair to criticize Tim Banks for playing way too conservative in these big games like the Georgias and the Ohio States. But you still got to look at the entire body of work of what Tim Banks has done, not only throughout the course of the year in 2024, but also since arriving at Tennessee. Goes on to say Tennessee struggled against Ohio State in the college football playoff, but Banks' defense shut down the SEC for most of the season. Sources tell On3 that Banks could listen to Miami and Mario Cristobal. In the three previous seasons, the Vols led the SEC in tackles for loss per game and are third in turnovers gained per game with 1.44. So the interesting part about this, because it seemed like Tim Banks not going to find that head coaching job, but now with his contract expiring on January the 31st, this gives Tim Banks leverage. Tim Banks and his agent are going to go to Tennessee and say, we have an offer from Miami. What are you willing to pay? And then you play these two teams back and forth. Tennessee is now going to have to pay for Tim Banks. So my question to you, is he worth it? Is he worth it? Would you make Tim Banks one of the highest paid defensive coordinators in the country? Because I think that might be what it takes. And I get the frustration of the Ohio State game, the frustration of the Georgia game. It is maddening when Tim Banks goes conservative, because I think his defense thrives when he plays loose, he plays aggressive, and they get after the quarterback. But for some reason, in some of these big games, he goes conservative. And again, it goes back to what Coach Jay said, stuff I've talked about with Eric Kane, self-evaluation at the end of the year. These coaches have to sit down and decide the decisions they made that didn't work out, and are they willing to change? Is Josh Heupel, is Joey Halzle, are they willing to adapt that offense? Or are they going to continue to live and die on what they've done the past couple of years? I think they need to adapt. I think they need to make changes. But you look at what Tim Banks has done since arriving at Tennessee. Defense in 2020 under Jeremy Pruitt, a defensive-minded head coach, was 69th in the country in scoring defense. And that defense that was 69th in the country also lost their two starting linebackers to the portal when Jeremy Pruitt got canned. You lost Henry To'oTo'o. You lost Quavaris Crouch. You lost Keyshawn Lawrence. Like, that team, that 2020 team lost a lot of talent. You know, we could talk about that linebacker room, Aaron Willis, some of the guys, French, that got kicked off the team, that transferred off the team. That's why I always go back to that first spring camp when Josh Heupel arrived. You had a long snapper playing linebacker in spring camp because you didn't have enough bodies in the linebacker room. That's how little depth we had on this football team when Tim Banks took over the defense. So 2021, 90th in the country in scoring defense. 2022, 36th in the country in scoring defense. 2023, 23rd in the country in scoring defense. So when people want to say, well, Boogie, the only reason the defense was good this year is because we didn't play anybody. All right, well, I'm seeing a trend here from 2021 to 22 to 23 to 24. Gets better and better and better until this year you had a top 5 defense. You gave up 14 points a game. Top 5 in the country in scoring defense. Top 5 in the country in total defense. 8th in the country in rushing defense. I think that's pretty dang good, and I think Tennessee needs to do all they can to keep Tim Banks as their defensive coordinator. Continuity is important, and I think when you look at the roster with what this defense is returning in 2025, I think they have the opportunity to be pretty dang special on that side of the ball. Can they get it fixed on the offensive side of the ball? But I saw the tweet. Nelson tagged me up, said, Boogie, did you see this? So Tim Banks, one of the top candidates for Miami. Will he stay or will he go? We'll continue to keep you updated on the transfer portal, but I wanted to talk a little coaching changes. What are your thoughts on this coaching staff? Whose head do you want to roll, or do you hope they retain this entire staff and continue to move forward? Jump in the comment section. Let's talk about it. As always, smash the thumbs up on the way out the door. Go check out the Talkin VAWLS merchandise, bonfire.com/store/Talkin VAWLS. You can also help out the channel by hitting the join button right down there below, right beside subscribe. Hit that join button. It's $1. There is strength in numbers. We need your support. This show does not exist without the members of the channel. So we need you. Think about hitting that join button, or there are links in the description below to join the channel, to grab the merchandise, all that good stuff. That is going to do it for this one. This is the Talkin VAWLS Network. My name is Boogie Bentley. Go Big Orange.